Hello, I'm Angela Ann, morning news anchor with WBNS 10 TV in Columbus. We all know school shootings can happen and have happened. As a journalist, I've reported too many times on tragic school violence here in Ohio and across the country. Schools like Columbine, Sandy Hook, and Virginia Tech. But what about the shootings closer to home? Case Western Reserve in 2003, Success Tech Academy in 2007, The Ohio State University in 2010, Chardon High School in 2012, Madison Local Schools in 2016, or West Liberty Salem in 2017. Those who have lived through a school shooting cannot turn back time, but they can offer insight from the events they witnessed. School officials from Chardon, Madison, and West Liberty Salem recently offered their personal experiences and their lessons learned from confronting an active aggressor firsthand.
At 7:25, 7:20 that morning, a student entered the building as usual into the cafeteria where we gathered in the morning before classes would begin. At 7:37, he took out a pistol and took the lives of 3 students in our cafeteria and wounded 3 others.
Approximately at 7:30, we heard gunshots ring out, and we left my office and ran into the hall to see what was going on.
We entered the hallway, saw students running, screaming, he has a gun, he's shooting, he has a gun, he's shooting. At that point, I retreated and went into the main office, got on the PA system, and initiated our lockdown, which was the first step in our drill, in our safety plan. The athletic director at that time got on the phone with the main office secretary, and they began talking to first responders and walking through the process of what we were to do at that point.
Everyone says, well, it can't happen here, I don't think it'll happen here. This community felt that way until February 29th. On that day around 11 a.m. during our 8th grade lunch, we had an 8th grade student who had brought a gun to school. He pulled out the gun, actually went into this restroom just to the right of where we're at, and racked a bullet into the gun, and came back out, and from a seated position just feet from where I'm seated right now, he fired his first shot at 2 tables away, and then he proceeded to immediately jump up and run towards the exit doors just a few feet to my right. While he was running, he was firing in that same general vicinity. I believe he fired off 5 shots. 2 students were hit by bullets, and 2 other students were injured by shrapnel. I was literally in the office, which is just maybe 50 feet from this room. We heard the gunshots, and we came running in here 15 seconds after the gunshots were heard. All we saw were kids running out of here. I went back into the office and notified the office, the secretary, my former secretary, to call 911 and to put the building on a lockdown.
Like most of us would feel, for your school district, whatever it might be, would be the last place on earth this is going to happen. But as we found out, it wasn't. It was approximately around 7:20 that morning. The student who was the active shooter in this situation came to school, sat out in his car for several minutes, then entered the building with the rest of the students around 7:30. When he walked into the building, he had a shotgun that was broke down in his backpack, so he had taken it apart. Went into our boys' restroom in our high school wing, went into the stall there, and basically put that shotgun back together. We had a group of students who were on their way to a mock trial tournament. One of the students in that group is the first student who encountered him after he had come out of the stall of the restroom. He walked in and saw him, we assume, and that's when he would have been shot.
What appears to be a routine day can quickly become dangerous and chaotic when an active aggressor incident happens in your school. To best prepare yourself and your students, it is vital to have a well-practiced plan in place.
Prior to 2012 and 2009 or 2010, we had practiced a full-scale active shooter drill here at Chardon High School. It was a large drill that took about half the day to complete and literally a full year to plan. That drill to this day, I believe, and was told by first responders after our shooting in 2012, saved a lot of lives prior to the event, because our staff knew what to do. Our students knew what to do. When lockdowns initiated, they knew what that meant. They knew where to go. So we believe that was one of the most beneficial things we did as far as safety in the 8 years that I was here as principal.
Over the years, implemented a 3-tiered lockdown system, a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. That day was a level 3, and we have actually done level 3 drills. We did not say there's an active shooter situation. We didn't say there's an active aggressor. We just said level 3 lockdown, this is not a drill. We feel like we were well prepared. Our kids knew what to do. They knew the language. They knew that level 3 lockdown meant something really serious is going on.
About 2.5 years before the actual shooting took place, we started with our ALICE training. Then there was a follow-up day where they actually did a role play where they came out on the scene and the sheriff's department pretended they were the active shooter. They had Nerf guns, and our staff had to barricade a door and make it so they couldn't enter and do everything they could to distract that shooter, just like they were taught in an ALICE training. No situation is going to be perfect. You know, you can't design a response that's going to apply to everything. You just hopefully can give people some tools to work with to help them get to safety. I think that's been the most important thing about our ALICE training, or giving people the ability to make decisions. And giving them the ownership so that they can respond to a situation instead of saying, okay, I'm going to lock down and wait for help. That's not going to work. It's going to be too late.
It's difficult to talk about the past, but it can provide valuable lessons for everyone moving forward. 3 common themes surfaced as we spoke with these school officials: prepare, take action, and recover. Taking these 3 steps can help all of us keep our schools safer. You can't predict when an incident will occur, but you can equip your students and staff with the tools necessary for survival. It is important to know, practice, and improve your plan.
You need to make sure that your staff are aware of what to do in a crisis situation. It's very important to take that plan and actually, either do a mock drill with it, have conversations around it, spend time with that at the beginning of the year with your students so that they understand what they're to do. It might even include walking your students to an evacuation site so they kind of know where to go. We think it's really important because in an actual crisis, you're going to try to do what you can rely on, or what you know, and what you do instinctively to some degree. And having that plan in place is important to give you the knowledge, but you need to actually work on the plan because it can help to identify, oh, this isn't going to work, and it can help just to help everybody become more familiar with what to do. By doing so, I think it takes away some of the fear of if the incident actually occurs, you're still going to be afraid. But at the same time, you're going to have a little idea what it is you're going to do. And so it can take some of that fear and put it into actions that you take that can help eliminate, hopefully, some of the problems.
My advice would be to administrators, obviously, is to drill and prepare. No matter what you plan for, you can't plan for every scenario. But what I have learned, and even after our incident, I've heard the experts talk, and I heard expert A say you should do this, and expert B say you should do this, and there's kind of standards set forth, but the key is you have to have plans in place that are flexible, that are fluid, that are dynamic. You have to make the best information or the best decision you can based on the information that you have available in that second.
If I were to talk to a first-year principal right now, my first advice to them would be to develop relationships with local law enforcement. When they saw Officer DeLisa, who was the first responder from Chardon Police Department, they knew the good guys were there. They knew they were okay.
In the face of danger, act quickly and efficiently to eliminate the threat from your school. Communication and adaptability is key to executing your well-practiced safety plan.
One of the biggest things that we learned was the fact that the incident begins when the incident starts at the location it starts at. And it doesn't happen from an office call saying that there's an active shooter.
All of our teachers knew what to do. All of our kids knew what to do. And when they heard Tim get on the PA and say we're in lockdown, they just snapped right to it. And that saved, you ask anyone who was here on that day, that drill saved innumerable lives. You can't even measure how effective that was. So it was incredibly effective. It wasn't perfect because we had some injuries and unfortunately some fatalities, but it made it much less severe than it could have been.
We've since learned that we should be more open and upfront in our, if we call a level 3 lockdown, we need to tell why. We need to give the information. We have an active aggressor in the high school cafeteria, so that perhaps if an evacuation would be the best option instead of a lockdown for the elementary, the principals can make that decision. Our kids, literally within 15 seconds, there were only 2 students remaining in this room. From 120 8th graders in lunch, 15 seconds later, this room was empty except 2 injured students. They did what they were supposed to do and they got away from the aggressive situation. Everybody did exactly what we had practiced. And because we had regularly practiced and we didn't just do the required number of drills, we did extra drills.
The effects of an incident continue past the day of the attack. They can even span years after. Be sure to plan ahead with mental health organizations and experts to arrange for what happens in the days and weeks after the incident.
We were out of school the next day. The shooting happened on a Monday. We made the decision to not have school on Tuesday. We actually had an open house on Tuesday night, and that was something that was very beneficial. We actually let parents and kids come back into this room to see that it was okay and to make sure that they're safe and comfortable. And there was an open gym going on. It was normal, and it was more for the parents than the kids. We brought in some trauma counselors, not only for our staff, but for our kids, for the kids that were most severely affected. But we made the decisions to use our local counselors and our local clergy. We felt like familiar faces would be better.
We were advised by trauma experts that as the quicker that we can return to school, the better everyone will be.
So we invited the staff back on a Wednesday. Thursday, we invited the students back, and it was an open house. We opened the building up for about 3 or 4 hours.
We had professional counselors here, professional healthcare experts, and they did great work for a lot of our staff.
We were given the advice that we should bring in some therapy dogs. Well, it's kind of a running joke among the team. We were tired of the dogs. The kids wanted everybody else out of the building but the dogs. They wanted the dogs here year round, and that was of comfort to us, knowing that made those kids comfortable.
We were supposed to play a sectional basketball game on February the 27th. Obviously that was postponed. We played that on Thursday night, and our kids showed up en masse, and it was the first normal thing they could do as kids since the shooting on Monday morning. But sports played an incredible role in our kids' healing and our getting back to the new normal that we faced.
So 3 steps: prepare, know your school safety plan, practice it often, and improve it. Be sure your local law enforcement and first responders are familiar with your school and your students. Take action. Execute your well-practiced emergency operations plan. Communicate and adapt to survive. Handle threats swiftly and appropriately. Finally, recover. Have a plan in place for the time period immediately after an incident. Plan ahead with mental health organizations and experts, and reach out to other schools who have experienced similar incidents. When an active aggressor situation occurs in a school, administrators and staff become first responders. Each school mentioned in this video had an emergency operations plan that was put into action by faculty and staff when active aggressor situations occurred. Their actions before help arrived were crucial. The belief that it can't happen here no longer exists. School shootings can happen anywhere, anytime, and school administrators must be sure that their staff and students are all prepared if such a tragedy were to occur. Ohio has established the Center for P-20 Safety and Security as the clearinghouse for schools to get assistance in preparing for, responding to, and recovering from emergencies that occur within schools.